welcome to Soul of Travel. I am so happy to be joined by Sonia Cruz Oro today, and she is joining us from Ireland. And we are going to explore transformational travel and travel coaching. So I'm really excited about both of these topics. These are things that are important in a Lotus sojourn. And so I'm really looking forward to sharing this specifically with the Soul of Travel listeners. So Sonia, welcome.
Thank you, Christine. Thank you very much for having me. I'm so excited to be here and having this amazing opportunity to chat about it.
Thank you. To begin our conversation, I would love for you to just introduce yourself and talk a little bit about who you are in the world of travel, and then we'll go into a little bit of your history and the journey you took into the space of travel.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, as you were saying, my name is Sonia Cruz Oro. I'm a certified travel coach. I'm founder of Travel Awakens. I like to describe travel coaching as a life coach who uses travel as a vehicle for transformation. And I combine life coaching with transformational travel. And my specialization is travel for self-discovery. It's something that is close to my heart and I'm passionate about.
I love that. I feel like travel can really be a vehicle for so many things, that it's this way that we see the world, and then we can use it as a way to kind of examine ourselves in that process. And so it becomes so much more than travel, which is something that we definitely really deeply connected on when we first met. So I'm really excited to explore what that means, and especially for any of our listeners who maybe haven't thought about travel in that context, really examining how travel can be this vehicle for exploration and awareness and change. But to begin, I would love for you to share. I know that you started out in the corporate world and were very dedicated to your career. And I think very similarly to a lot of people who maybe are listening, had this kind of this end point in mind, this like level of success that you thought once you got there, you would be like, aha, I have arrived. And then you got there and you were like, aha, something is missing. And so I would love for you to just kind of walk us through that and get us to that point, and then we can look at, where you went from there.
Yeah. It's sometimes the same story, and I'm sure many people can resonate. Yeah. So my story, my background is in IT, in corporate IT. I am originally from Spain, so I started there. I follow my parents' advice. As a little girl, I always look up to my father. I wanted to be, like my father, independent, successful, and his advice was always, have good grades. He was very demanding with that. So 8 out of 10 was not good enough. I had to be the best. And so I was doing my best to have the best grades I could, to also have his approval and validation, and then find a good job and go as higher as you can. So I did that, right? So I had a good job. I actually, enjoyed. I was good at it. I learned. I started in customer services. I was like being a technician in customer service, and then I was promoting, slowly finding my way in the ladder of the corporate, being a team leader, a team manager. Then I had an opportunity to change countries. So I had an international opportunity to promote, which I was so excited about it. And it's when I moved to Ireland, and this was 6 years ago. So I can tell you that I've always been very empathetic, very sensitive woman, but being in the corporate, so it's something that I feel now, looking backwards, that I was actually playing like a role, playing like, covering myself with kind of protection or mask, or tell it the way you want, to have to be somebody, to have this approval, recognition, or be in this managerial position that I actually was not who I was. But I thought something was wrong with me, because I could not feel like, I could be myself there. So was in this moment that I thought I was looking for something outside. So maybe, changing countries. So I moved to Ireland, and here I get a promotion, was the job of my dreams. And I actually, as I said, was not a bad job. I actually was good at it. I was enjoying it, managing people. I was coaching them and leading the teams. So that was great. But it was that point on my career, after a couple of promotions being in Ireland, that I start feeling again the same, right? I start feeling that something was missing. I was for the next thing. And it was this promotion that I thought was what I always was looking for, expecting when I moved, and all the efforts I did, that my boss, actually the director, was leaving the company, and I had the opportunity, me and my colleague, the other manager, to apply for it. And it's like rationally was like, of course, of course I want that, because I didn't come so far to just being that far. So I want this, but something feels so, I don't know, not aligned. I don't know how to explain it. It was something that in my body was like not feeling right. I suppose the mask I had to wear for this role was so big that I could not, my body was not resonating, right? So I had to make this decision that was very difficult in my career, to decide not to go in this direction anymore after nearly 20 years of doing this. And thinking that I had no more options, because all my life, in my late 30s, what am I going to do now? Start from scratch again after all this investment in career and education? I felt quite lost, honestly, and I didn't know what to do, but I knew for sure that was not the direction for me. So I just decided not to apply, and I didn't know what to do. So what I did is, like, because my investment always in my mindset, I invested in coaching. Personal development has always been in my life since young age. I'm also a psychologist, leadership management, all these investment that I've done during these years. And I knew that what's your purpose is aligned with your passion. So it's something that you need to follow your heart. What you feel passionate about? What would you do if you were not paid? Or what would you do for the rest of your life, not being paid and not feeling resentful about it? And the answer was travel. So I would just travel. I knew it was something about travel. But so at that point, I didn't have any idea or any expectations about do anything, professionally about it. Just I knew I wanted to travel. And it was something about personal development and travel, something around that. So what I did is I start traveling. So I just enroll a travel club. I start meeting lots of people around the world. I start, prioritizing my joy, prioritizing my passion over my career. And I visited, this was 2019. I did 15 trips that year to 11 countries in this 12 months, which I thought was impossible. So just changing mindset, we just, all the excuses we buy to ourselves, that I have no time, I have no money, I have no companions. You get rid of all these excuses and you make it happen. And this was just a totally change in my mind. So it was actually when I discovered travel coaching. After that, well, one thing bring the other one, and is when I connected with actually what I want to do with my profession, which is now. I also met my husband, so actually was everything changed for me. And so 2020, last year, I just quit my job in corporate, and I decided to go full time in travel coaching.
There's so many amazing things that I think people can really relate to in your story. Like, one for me, of this idea of checking the boxes. Like, I very much also remember having a conversation with my dad when I was little, and he was like, this is, you're so bright, you're very smart, this is the path I see for you, here's like the boxes that you can start checking so that you can get here. And I was like, okay, and just like start checking all the boxes. And I remember I had a moment like pretty early in college where I was probably already feeling this misalignment, but I didn't know what it was. I was too young. I didn't really have any words for it. And I quit college for a little while, and then my path just kind of went all over the place for a really long time until it came back, and it ended up coming back in the context of sociology and being a global citizen and then tourism. But it was like every time I would check a box, my reaction would just be like, no, and jump ship. And it was so counter to this persona that I had created and this mask that I was wearing of straight A student, follow the rules, be in line. And even in this moment, I'm really reflecting on how much I did that. Like I would check the box and I would just like jump ship. It was like, not that box. But I kept trying because I was like, this is a way you're supposed to do it. And
Yeah.
so then I, finished college, got my master's, like tried to do all of the things that we're supposed to do. And so I'm sure that there's other people that can really relate to that feeling. And I wish, and I'm hoping that because this type of conversation is becoming so much more common in many cultures around the world of passion and purpose and then career, instead of this like career and passion and purpose like have no place. That maybe this will allow for people to really actually do the thing that they're meant to do, that really, if we do the thing in alignment, we're probably going to serve others in a much greater way than trying to do things according to some path. So I really appreciate you sharing that, because it's something that really resonates for me, and something I really try to share with my daughters, like to listen to those cues and to say like, how is your body actually responding to this? And sometimes they look at me like I'm crazy. They're like, I don't know how my body's responding to this. But then,
we are trained to not listen to our feelings and push
yeah.
through our feelings. So if something does not feel good, or you are, just push and do it anyway, so we are so mental, and so what we have to, instead of what we want or what feels right. So it's totally a changing mindset. We need to start changing, and by education to daughters especially, and children, to do it different for themselves, to be happy as well.
Yeah. My daughter actually, she stayed home this morning. She's like, I don't feel okay to go to school today. And I'm like, okay, going through the checklist, like, do you feel ill? Do you have a headache? Do you have a stomach ache? Are you overtired? Are you this? Are you sad? Is there something that you like that you're feeling that you can't process? And she's like, it's like somewhere in between those two things. Like she said, my body isn't sick, but I don't feel well, and I'm not really emotional, but there's just something. And so I was even thinking about like naming that for her, just saying like, I need a self-care day. Like I just need a few hours to figure out why I feel this way. And that's that kind of like developing that muscle now, so that when we feel that in a bigger way later, that we know how to connect to it and respond and trust ourselves and trust that feeling. So you took a year. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was saying this self-awareness is absolutely amazing. I don't know how old is your daughter, but it's good to have this since hopefully I've been educated to have this connection with my body and my feelings. Definitely.
So you're saying you took a year, you kind of, you heard that call, I guess, or that nudge from yourself that you needed to do something else. And then, as you said, you started traveling, and all of a sudden, instead of having all these barriers, you just put them aside. And then your life really started to open up for you in a different way. You said you met your husband, and then started this completely other lifestyle, this other way of being. And I'm just wondering for you, like, what has been that response for you personally? And then how has that rippled out?
Yeah, well, I'm sure it was not a coincidence, so all this year that I said I invested on travel and how everything turned around was not by coincidence. So it's actually now as a travel professional, a travel coach, that I'm seeing all the researches, all the actually scientific evidences that say, that was actually thanks to travel also as a catalyst and connecting with my joy and what made me happy, everything around me changed. So it was a consequence. So this was a big realization that all these years pushing to have success, to be, somebody, and actually was that easy, like make yourself happy first, and then everything will change around you. So it's totally flipping around what we are trained or educated in society, in schools, by our parents. So was actually totally, big open eyes for me.
Mhm. So when people are hearing you say that you have then you found travel coaching and life coaching, can you explain a little bit what that means? What do you do as a travel coach, and what does that offer others?
Yeah, so I knew that it was something. So I didn't know what I did at that time. Yeah, so I just knew what happened, and looking backwards again is what you connect the dots. So I was saying, okay, it's something about mindset and personal development, because I know I was doing work on myself as well. But at that time, and looking with coaches and mentors always. But that year I actually really invested, and was something about travel. So was both together. So was something about travel and coaching, but I didn't know that travel coaching was a thing. So I never heard about it. It's actually quite new. There is got certified at the beginning of this year, but something that maybe is 2 or 3 years old as a certification by the International Coach Federation. So it's something that I discovered by searching on Google. So I was searching on Google, right? Because I knew I wanted to do that for other people as well. It works so well for me, and I could help others to achieve the same results and transformation, mixing both coaching and travel. But I didn't know how it looked like. So I started researching, and actually just it come to my, in Google, it come and it's like travel coaching. And I started researching, and it's actually a thing. It's actually a profession. It's certified. It's, there is an homologation. Is something that is, and structure is something that is working and people is using. So this is actually what came to me as a consequence of. So I did it in myself. I knew what I wanted to do. Just I needed a label or name, I suppose, to a title and a certification, regulated certification to become travel coach. And as I said, it's travel coaching using life coaching with transformational travel, or using travel as a vehicle of transformation. So you want to explain a bit deeper about exactly how it helps travel?
Yeah, sure. Just, I'm going to say one thing. I think it's so interesting because I have done that random Google search as well. And you're like, what am I? I like this. And it's like, ta-da. But I kind of landed in transformational travel the same way, where I was like, okay, I have seen travel do this in myself. I have seen travel do this for others. What is this? And I myself was just saying, like, travel is transformational. Travel is transformational. I kept hearing myself say this. And then I thought, oh, I'm going to do it intentionally. And I'm going to say this is transformational travel. And then, a couple of years later, I run into this whole community called the Transformational Travel Council. And I was like, it's a real thing. Like, I didn't make this up. So for people, like, I think it's so hard to trust ourselves, right? Like, we really need, and like you said, you went to seek out the certification so that you have a label, so that you know what to call yourself, so that we can tell others what we do. But all along, you already knew what it was within. And it's so interesting that that need to be able to say what we do, or to label it, to communicate it to others. And this space, I think, is really gray with that, because it's really hard to tell others what we want to offer them, because it's their own personal journey. But we have to still find this way to connect to them so that we can offer them this experience and this period of growth and this catalyst for discovery. So it just really resonates for me, because I feel like I've done the exact same thing. Like, okay, Google, tell me what I'm going to be when I grow up.
Confirmation that you are not actually making these things up. It's not just something that is in your mind. That is actually something that is there and is proven, and you are not the first one who had this experience. And so I suppose it's hard to believe that you are the first one that this happened to you. And actually it's counterproductive, because if you were the first one, you would be missing a big opportunity, right?
Yeah.
But it's true. So you see other people also, did this transformation through travel, and is actually, there is researches, studies, and certifications about it. So just going deeper and know more about it, because if these people are leading, are pioneers, are leading the way because they've been there first, they know more than I am, that I just came here. So it's about learning as well, using these people who is, before you to help you, to pull you as well, and help better, and don't need to spend all these years that maybe they spent it before to know what they know. So learn from them as a mentors as well.
Yeah, yes, I definitely agree. Well, I would then love for you to share, as a travel coach, what is it that you do?
Yeah. So what I arrived to the conclusion, right, after all this, and this is my personal view. I know many travel coaches, everybody will have their own personal view. So travel actually helps for two different reasons. That is a catalyst for transformation. And it's a combination that I think is very unique of travel. I don't know any other thing that has these two factors, which is, first of one, it puts you out of your comfort zone, which is the only place you can grow as a human being, out of your comfort zone. And the second one is it frees you from expectations. So this is about this, we were talking about the roles, the masks that we wear, that we learn to behave as, depending on, if you are a mom, or you are an employee, or you are a boss, or you are wherever you are in the society. So when you travel, you are free of this. You don't have these responsibilities, roles, or even identities, part of your identity that you have been repeating and repeating and repeating so much that you believe is you. But then when you travel, you are free from that. So it's this combination of these two factors, the thing that for me, I believe is what makes this so powerful. And then with the help of the life coaching, help with saying why you are traveling, what's the intention, what do you expect from it, and connecting with the feelings, the intention, what you need to do, being also the inner work, journaling, reflection. What do you want to change? Because if you want to transform, actually you want to change something. What's what you want, where you are, what you want to be. So this is the main thing of coaching, where you are, what you want to be, and make sure that after your trip, actually you bring it back home. So it's so sad when I see people that are wasting travel and just going away, have this amazing experience, or maybe insights, or even breakthroughs, but then they don't know how to implement them in their daily lives. So they come back again to the old patterns, old routines, back to where we were before. So they haven't grown actually as much as they could from this experience if they do it purposefully.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. One of my notions, or one of the ways I explain why transformational travel, or intentional travel, is so important, is that we have these experiences, and like you said, so many people just kind of come home, and the description I like to use is like they just put it with their suitcase under their bed, and like the travel experience happened and then it's done. And really it's like months and years after the travel experience and that reflection where we start to see what really happened. And like some of it can be very immediate, but there's all these other things that just like maybe loosened in that travel process that we need to kind of pull out and think about before they can become bigger changes. And the other thing that I wanted to talk about with you is I think there's a lot of resistance to the idea of transformational travel, because the word transformation can cause a lot of resistance, that people are maybe thinking, oh, I don't need to change, I don't want to change. And they're thinking change means like completely separating from who they are. And I really feel like what transformational travel does is maybe not allows you so much to change, but like you said, it helps you get rid of these masks and these layers and these identities that we have absorbed, and really get back to our truest self. And I know for me, like that moment when I have like my backpack over my shoulder and my feet hit the ground somewhere else, it's like, there you are. It's like I can get rid of everything else that I'm like juggling in my daily life, and I just get to be present with who I am. And like you said, that is what allows us to access something that we just truly can't in our daily life. Even if we are having a mindful practice and journaling and doing all these things, there's something about this extraction process that allows us to go a little bit more deep. So I would love for you to share something about like what you think that is and what that allows.
Yeah. So it's totally that, and that's, I'm just putting, you know, words to what we have already experienced, and we know it happens, but we don't know why it happens. We feel this freedom, yeah, we feel when we travel, and actually it's just we can be our authentic self. We don't need to pretend or what people expect from us. When you are in your daily life, you know, even dress and makeup and how people expect you to be or to behave, and it's very difficult to behave in a different way because the environment just, you know, pulls you to be this person and show these behaviors, and also people around you that think very similar, usually when it's the same culture, right? So you go to a different culture and these people think totally different. It's like, oh, okay, so what I thought was right, maybe it's not that right, or there is no better or worse, these other points of view, and also changes your lenses and how you see the world and how you see yourself and how other people see you. You know, so maybe people around you see you as in a personality trait, and then you go there and they see you, oh, but you're actually not boring, you're actually very funny. And it's like, oh, am I? This kind of thing, you know, you see other aspects of yourself. And this, so if you ask my opinion, it happens because when we create these roles, actually what we are doing is we create this part of our identity by repetition, by habituation, which is also connected with the out of the comfort zone. So we are out of our area of comfort and familiarity, where when we are in our familiar zone or comfort zone, we are 95% on autopilot. And this is like, what? So we are only 5% conscious, making conscious decisions. 95% of the time we are repetition. So think about your routine when you wake up. Yeah, you wake up the same side of the bed and you go to the bathroom, and then you go to the breakfast and you have the same cup of tea with the same cup, and you sit in the same place looking at the same, you know, window, and then you meet the same people and you have the same routines, and then you go back again, go to bed, and the day after most of the same. Yeah, so we are repeating and repeating and repeating. So our body eventually knows better than us, and we don't need even to think. It's, you know, this feeling when you are driving that you can think on what you are going to make for dinner, or what you were discussing with your boss in the morning, and you are driving and you don't know, oh, I arrived already. So your body knew, right? So it's autopilot. So when we are in our familiar environment, in our comfort zone, we are in autopilot. When we are traveling, it's something new. It's something, okay, now I actually have to make decisions here, where I'm gonna go. So you are present, you are in control. So you break this familiarity, and also the roles is the same. Your identity as a mom, as a, you know, business owner, as a neighbor, as a daughter, is actually repetition of habituations of relationship. You with your daughters every day, the same relationship. You are building this part of you, which is the identity, which is actually a coat or a mask of the role you have. When you are traveling, you don't have this. It's different. You break the routine. You know, you break the familiarity. So that's why it's so powerful. Actually, you are more aware of your automatic programs, and you can change them, because you only can change them when you are aware. When you are inside the program, in the automatic pilot, you don't know. But when you are aware, when you are outside, then you see it from the outside. And then is when you can actually take action and change what you don't like.
Yeah. That statistic is a little bit mind-blowing for me right now, that 5% of the time is when you're actually present. And yet I also feel that deeply, because it's like most of the day, and then you have a moment and you're like, oh, it's like your soul is like, again, it's that I see you, here you are. And then you're like right back into like dinner,
Yeah.
carpool, blah, 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 blah. And then like maybe another moment you'll pop up and you surface. And for me, like, I think I noticed I started becoming addicted to those moments, right? Those moments of awareness. And it happens maybe when I'm reading or having a really powerful conversation with someone or meditating. And they were like, maybe I had a few more pockets of that clarity and that connection to myself. And I thought, like, when else does this happen? And again, like within travel, it's just so much more. And like you said, it's because you have to make decisions, you have to be aware, or you're going to get lost, or you're going to, find yourself where you don't want to be. And you don't know how to read the menu, so you're really thinking things through, or things like that. And so then over the course of the last 2 years with the pandemic, I've been thinking, like, how do we bring this thing that happens in travel into our daily life? Because it is so profound and so important. And so, like, my ideas have been, drive a different way to work, like get yourself out of that autopilot, go to a different restaurant, sit on the other side of the coffee shop. Like, it doesn't have to be a huge experience, but your brain will wake up, and like your soul will wake up, and you will start to notice something else. And then maybe that's when you meet this person, or you pick up this magazine, and the universe is like, aha, here's the thing I've been trying to give you, but you were sleeping. And so I just think that, like, combining this art of travel is kind of what I call it, like these mindsets and practices. Like, if you become aware of who you are and how you are when you travel, and then bring that back to your life, then this catalyst that travel is can become even more impactful. But I would love for you to speak to that. How do you help your travelers when you're coaching them to be more present when they're traveling? And then how do they bring that awareness back into their daily lives?
Yeah, so it's because we are so much up in our head. Yeah, so it's something that we've been, again, trained to do, and being is I suppose is also the society, that is very masculinized. And it's about doing, thinking and planning and thinking about the future, and it's not being present and being in your body. And travel helps you to do that, helps you to be present, and helps you to stay in your body. So this is one of the main, jobs I do with my clients, help them to become aware of what they are in their head, they are in their body, and this helps to be more present. There are some tools that they can use, and when they are aware and they catch themselves being in their mind, oh, I'm in my mind again, go to your body. You can connect with your breath, you can connect with objects outside of you. When you go for a walk, be actually present, with the nature, what the trees are teaching you about resilience, about, so it's something that you can connect thanks to the environment, in a new environment that brings you more this, as I said, clarity and breaks the routine, but also is about your body, being out of your mind and being in your body. So this is one key thing that you need to be aware of and practice, and it's easier. So when you travel, it's like a playground. It's easier than when you are at home. When you are in your routine, is much more energy that you have, because you have to break this routine, these programs. Yeah, so you have to be more aware. The body is just so habituated that it's like, oh, now I'm waking up. Now I'm in charge, so it's much difficult to take the lead back when you are there. So it's about using travel, using this new environment as a playground, and actually experience how it feels. Because most people don't know how it feels to be in their body. Most people don't know what actually really feels being in the present moment. Never experienced this, and it's normal. We've never been taught. Who learned this in the school? Nobody, right? So we learn always about memorizing and maths and using our mind, but we didn't have these experiences. Maybe now, lately, there is more awareness about that. And hopefully, next generations, we will have this in schools, but at least in my generation, I didn't have that. So it's something that I teach them about being more in their body and being more present, using tools, and also use travel and the new environment as a way for them, and then journaling, what they have realized, and find ways to just tweak this, how in their being aware, how in their daily life they can start using more of this, because then it's very easy to come back, as I said, back to your duties and responsibilities and roles and jobs, and again go back to the familiar, go back to the old patterns. And it's about being, very determined, making the decision. Don't need to be big step, don't need to be a big huge transformation. Can be just small thing, small tweak that changes everything. So the first thing is why you are taking this trip, why you are traveling, right? Make sure you understand this, because if you don't know why you travel, that's the first thing. And then what you can do different to make sure you don't go back to the same situation that make you try to, go away and do things different. So also with awareness and coaching and inner work and questions and journaling, and there is a internal work we do together to make sure they find what they can actually actions need to be baby steps maybe that they can implement, so they actually change something in the routine and they create a new routine. It's by repetition that you create a new routine, that you substitute the one that is not serving you anymore for a new one that is more, healthy and does not put you in this over mental space that then you need to escape of it.
As you're speaking, I was really thinking a lot about how much people prescribe, I guess, meditation for kind of learning how to be in your body, and the resistance that so many people have to it, that I had to it when I was first told, like, you need to meditate. And it's like, sitting still with my mind, absolutely not going to happen, right? But then through that, like, learning how to be in your body, like when you sit down and like feeling yourself touching the ground, like if you just did that, you would be meditating, right? Like if you learned how to feel the ground below you. And I tell my kids this all the time, like when I feel them like really spiraling off, I'm like, wiggle your toes and feel the ground. And they just like, they ground, right? And so, like you said, it doesn't have to be like, we don't all have to become these like mindfulness gurus, and we don't have to be like hugely transformed to consider ourselves successful. We just need to find little tools. And I think also breath work. When you and I landed in Zoom today, I was like coming into the space with you. And it's things I do like automatically now. I don't even notice it. Other people will notice that, they're like, oh, I noticed you do this. I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot that I do that. But it's the way for me to like come into my body and come into the space. So if people are listening and they kind of want to play with this, like even just taking like a moment when you wake up. I wiggle my toes a lot. Like I have a trouble with being grounded. So when I wake up, I like wiggle my toes and I just like notice that they're on my body and I'm in my body. And the breath is huge, just to like, it's just magical to bring us inward. And like even starting with those really basic practices, I think people would, instead of constantly projecting forward, like, what's my deadline? What's the next thing on my to-do list? Or like, oh, I'm so disappointed I did this and I'm frustrated I did this. We spend a lot of time in these two spaces and we don't ever let ourselves be here. And so I don't know, do you have any tools that you would offer for how we can connect to this moment so that we can have that awareness as well?
Yeah, you said that, the attention in some parts of your body. So I'm thinking when you are walking, instead of being in your mind, which is the natural, we've been so trained to be there that is automatic. Put the attention maybe in your hips, how they move the hips or the legs, and some other parts of your body. In the breath is very powerful as well. And then you can put also the attention using the five senses, basically. So you want to maybe sit in a bench in the park, close your eyes and see how many noises can you hear. And you eventually will say, I only hear the birds, but then you close the eyes and you start hearing more things. Oh my God, I also can hear the cars in the road behind there. And you start, this is another kind of meditation. So it's using your five senses. If you're having a meal, you can, the taste, what's the flavor, what's the smell? Are we actually being present when we are having a meal, or we are thinking about the next thing that I have to do, the past or the future? So it's the mindfulness, using the five senses, whatever is powerful for you. When you want to see something, pick an object, with your hands and count five and say 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then be fully present. Really look at this thing with all your body. So it's looking or listening or smelling or tasting with all your body. while being present. So this is the most, I suppose, closer you will, in a small tool that you can be to the present moment. It feels like your head is totally empty. So you are fully present and there is nothing in your head. And it's like, oh, and we need that. It's like if you are physically tired, climbing a mountain, you will need to sit down and rest your body. So you also need to rest your mind. So we need to do things. And as I said, you don't need to be like a, yogi or super expert in meditation. You can have this 5 minutes a day, 20 minutes a day, maybe it's having a hot bath and relax with music, but do it every day. Have like a routine that keeps you in this balance, because we are so much in our head. So I actually have in my diary every day. Also as a business owner, I know I see the difference, because when you are an employee, you have more, this schedule that you are working, and then you can separate, hopefully the best of the cases, you can separate, you are at home and not thinking about work. Yeah, fingers crossed. But when you are a business owner, it's more difficult to separate because you are always thinking. Yeah. So in my schedule, the times, and I have even alarms in my phone. Now it's time, for a walk. Now it's time for the masculine and the feminine, that I say, the yin and the yang, right? So now it's work time. Now it's relax and self-care and be present. But then being genuinely using this time for you, because then you can use maybe this time to, I don't know, reading something that is also work. Yeah. So it's kind of fooling yourself. So yeah, relax and do something that is creative, that puts you in the present moment. You can, go and walk your dog or play with your cat, whatever it is that keeps you in the present moment, that connects you with joy and is not in the head. You will see that your energy is not there. It's just from the neck down. Mm-hmm. So anything that you can keep this balance is good.
Yeah. Oh, I love this conversation so much. And I would love to invite people who are like, I have no idea what you're talking about, if they're listening and having that moment, because it is very hard, because like you said, you don't even know what in your head means, right? You don't even know the difference because you don't have a contrast to it. But the moment that you find a way to get into that space, you're like, oh, okay. Like, and you might be there for like a 10th of a second the first time you find it, and you're like, oh, where did it go? But then it's a practice, like it's a meditation practice, a yoga practice, all this thing, it takes practice. So for people not to think like that they are failing at it, like it really does take time to do that. And like I struggle with it constantly as well. Like I'll notice I'm really good at it, and then I'll take 2 weeks, like really the last 2 weeks, and I have been in my head and I have been pushing forward, and I start just craving all of these things to slow down and relax, and which I think is why often we get sick when we work like that, right? Because our body is saying, hey, you need this balance, you need to nourish. When we get sick, we like focus on what we're eating and we're drinking and how we're resting, and so that feminine energy rises up to take care of us. And again, I think it's something we're not culturally aware of, that this difference between our masculine energy and our feminine energy. And so I love how once you are kind of analyzing how you feel in travel, how you feel in life, you start to become aware of these different things, and then you can create that balance. I read this book, and I wish I had it. I know it's on my bookshelf, but I can't remember the name right now. But one of the prompts is to eat an orange for 15 minutes. And I remember reading, and I was like, no, like how could you do that? But like you said, hold the orange and just like feel it. How much does it weigh? What does the skin feel like? What does it smell like? And then you like peel it open. And then again, how does that feel different? Like, what does that remind you of? Does it bring anything up? And like eating every segment and tasting it and like being aware of chewing it, and like the process of doing that might be agonizing, but it also will really allow you to see how disconnected you are from your like bodily actions, and how we are not present. Like most of us would grab it, be eating it, watching TV, texting, like letting the dog out, and this whole experience went by without us even knowing that it happened.
And you know, Christine, when I was listening to you, I just thought that I imagine the listeners thinking, what a waste of time. Yeah, because we are educated to think like that. So we are being educated like all the feminine self-care, slow down is a waste of time. It's weakness, it's just not worth it. So we are so programmed in the way that we need to do and achieve and make the most of the time. And that's just a lie. And this is why we are getting, you know, sick, stress, all these mental health problems that we have because we are out of balance, right? Any disease is an imbalance causes diseases. So we need to change this. We need to actually bring the dignity back to all the things feminine and say that they are even worth, are the same kind of worth. They are not more or less, it's just the same. And it's about anything, doing versus being, giving versus receiving, both are necessary and we need more. So the world itself is too much in the masculine. So we need more people, you know, being more in the feminine so we can bring this balance and the world needs that. And we will appreciate it.
Yeah. And I love when you travel to and you travel somewhere that has a more dominant feminine energy. Like there's places I've landed and I can just feel it, like literally like a warm hug, like this maternal energy. And you're like, thank goodness. Like it's, again, it even adds to that, like taking off those layers that are linked to that masculine energy is like, here, I don't have to be that. And it's like, I feel like you really feel it. It's just, yeah, it's so calming. It's like the deepest breath. And and again, I think this is where travel helps us. Like we can't get that if you're in Manhattan or London or something. Like it's just not really energetically accessible to us. But when you go someplace else that does function more from that feminine space, then it's where we can learn what that feels like. And then we can reconnect to that in our own space. And so, like, really allowing people to have the permission to know that they don't know how to do this or that it's not natural.
Self-awareness is the basic. I think what travel brings, the most important thing is the self-awareness that brings about yourself. And you know, you see this because you, from the place you are, you can think, oh yeah, I'm perfectly balanced, I'm fine. But when you are aware is when you can start changing and improving things. So if you are not in the place you want to be, is something there that is just not aligned or not balanced, and travel gives you this.
Yeah. Well, I'm so happy for this conversation and I don't want to leave it, but we're near the end of our time. Is there anything else? I know, like an hour almost just flew by. Anything else, Sonia, that in terms of how people can create more opportunity for transformation in their travel experiences, anything that else that you want to offer, and then also how people can connect with you to work with you and learn more about this type of travel and this type of experience.
Yeah, I'm thinking if there is anybody who is listening who is thinking about creating or designing a trip that is transformational, that they want, you know, the person who will go in the trip is not the same person who will come back of the trip, is a more advanced or evolved version of themselves, and they are thinking on doing that. I actually have a travel journal in my website that I offer, so they can go there, travelawakens.com/journal, and download it. It's just my 7 steps process from A to Z to design this transformational travel experience. So they will make sure they make the most of this experience, and most importantly, they will bring back the benefits back home. So it's there, it's free, just take it.
Excellent, thank you. This is like my favorite thing. Obviously, this is the space I spend a lot of time in, and I think it's so valuable. And I think as travelers and really as humans, like this is the place that we need to be, because this not only helps us to deeply connect to ourselves, it helps us to deeply connect to others when we travel, which is another space I had wished to address with you, but maybe next time. So I just really encourage people to ask the questions and to listen when their body is telling them something, when their soul is telling them something, because It's true. And I feel like no person has heard that and then answered and then been like, "Oh, that was wrong." So really just to trust
Because
and
of
to listen.
expectations. We are not feeling, we are not connected. What we feel is like what others expect us to say. So we have the approval, the external approval.
Yeah.
Yeah, so big.
Well, to end our conversation, I always end with a series of rapid fire or rapid-ish fire questions.
Ooh,
So I'll bring you to those. The first is, what is your favorite book or movie that offers you a travel escape or inspires you to adventure?
mm. I would recommend people who are in this space of transformational travel to read the book The Heroine's Journey. I know that this is The Hero's Journey from Joseph Campbell, which is very famous and many people refer to it, but The Heroine's Journey, Maureen Murlock, if I remember correctly, yeah, is the author. So yeah, this is the book.
Oh, I haven't heard of that, and now I'm going to be so excited. The last thing I need is more books. I wish I could turn my computer. I have a giant wall, but I would just like spend the rest of my days with books traveling. What is always in your suitcase?
A bit of sense of humor.
Oh, that is
I think I
good.
need it in every trip, you know. So be prepared, sense of humor. Don't forget to pack this one.
Yeah. What has been your favorite destination?
I'm between two. I would say, look, I would say London because it was the first one that my first international trip that actually I did in my late 20s, and it was what was one that made a beginning and the end. When I was there, I remember I was there walking. I went with my family, and I had like a vision. Something came to me, like I see myself there, living there one day. And actually, eventually, I was not finished. I didn't end up in London. I ended up in Ireland. But was this? I don't know. I felt like one day I'm gonna be here, and this I waked something in me about international travel and travel. So I would say London. And
Yeah.
it's also where the first time I traveled with my husband now before we got married, and it was London, and it was very special for New Year. So yeah, London.
Again, like those voices and those clues, right? I remember walking down this grass road, not even a road, in Uganda, and I just had this feeling too of like, you'll be back. Like I could just hear this place whispering to me, and it's like, oh, thank you for the invitation, and just like recognizing it and not needing to know what it means right now. Like I haven't been back yet, but I know I will. Like I just know that I will. So listening for that when you travel. Where do you still long to visit?
Many places, but I think big in my bucket list is South America.
Hmm. What do you eat that immediately connects you to a place that you've been?
Hmm.
Mhm.
Mm. That's funny because I was now for All Saints, for Halloween, here for All Saints Day, I was cooking some special sweets that we do in my place in Catalonia, where I am from. And I was because I was saying to my husband about it, but I didn't cook them. I didn't even eat them since I am living in Ireland. And this is 6 years ago. But he said, you should do it. Yeah, show me how they are. So I was cooking them, and just the process of cooking, the smell and eating it just awakens so much memories of my childhood.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's these sweets, All Saints sweets called panellets from the place I am from, Catalonia.
Yeah, and when we're talking about being mindful and being present, like that's one of the ways I think our body stores memories is through these. That's all of your senses when you eat something, right? So that's why I love that. It's like it's these certain things will really transport us back to a moment in our lives or a moment on this planet, a place on this planet. Who was the person that inspired or encouraged you to set out and explore the world?
My father.
Mm.
He always pushing me to go out and explore. And as I said, this lead me to the masculine world, but also it's good. So both are good, masculine and feminine are good. So he was always the one pushing me to go out of the comfort zone. And yeah, and this first trip to London I was talking about was my father's idea. So yeah.
Yeah. And if you could take an adventure with one person, fictional or real, alive or past, who would it be?
A travel adventure. Okay, that came to my mind like this. Maybe it's a bit freaky, but I would say the philosopher Socrates. I always had something about it, and all the know thyself and the philosophy, and also I'm a psychologist, and this came from my passion to philosophy. So I don't know, it came like Socrates, so why not?
I mean, why not? You can choose anyone.
As a coach, I will ask him so many questions. Yeah.
Well, I so greatly appreciate this connection and this conversation, and you taking the time to really share in depth with my listeners what the power of transformation that lies in travel. So, thank you so much for joining me today.
Absolutely pleasure, Christine, and an honor to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.